So, in our project, we came up with 6 guiding principles, and the 6 guiding principles are the following. That language is a complex dynamic system. A lot of research has been done on that lately, okay? And you'll have all of these references when you have the PowerPoint. And language acquisition is not linear. Variability in learning trajectories is pervasive. That's really very, very important, because if you thought that if I just teach it that way, they're going to acquire it in that order, you're going to be very disappointed. All of the research that we have now, no matter how you teach it, no matter what your language program had, no matter what your language textbook had, just because you taught that piece before the other piece doesn't mean that it's going to be acquired that way. Isn't that disappointing? If you're a very traditional teacher, that would disappoint you enormously. Language develops as a result of meaningful participation in human interaction. Going back to my language is lived. It is acquired as a result of meaningful participation in human interaction. So if we want language to be acquired in a classroom, we better have a lot of meaningful participation in human interaction, right? That only stands to reason, right? So, language structure emerges from the repetition of many local events. And what this means is that language structure emerges from the repetition of many segments of language, right? Language chunks. We can call them pre-formulated utterances, right? You'll find that if you study, and I now have a very young grandchild who turns 3 this Saturday, and this particular grandchild, you can see that she picks up these chunks of language, okay? So that if I'll say, dame un besito, ahora no, te pegaste, and so she'll say, te pegaste, she'll say the whole thing. She doesn't know she's conjugating verbs. She's just picking up chunks and repeating them, right? English language learners work exactly the same way. So sadly, the direct language teaching may not significantly alter learners' developmental trajectories. That's very discouraging. If you've adopted a curriculum, or if you brought something from a vendor, okay, that promise you that these learner trajectories are all going to be successful. So instead, we propose that access to affordances can contribute significantly to the development of language resources in an additional language. So let me say something about affordances. So language in use, okay, we viewed the science classroom as providing a number of valuable affordances for being able to hear oral language and to see written language. So all of our materials, all of our activities in those language classrooms had this view that everything that happened around you was an affordance. The moment that the teacher opened her mouth, the moment that she said, let's view a video, that was an opportunity to build the best language resources surrounding them, on those language resources surrounding them. So these affordances, this concept of affordances comes from ecological psychology from a fellow by the name of Gibson. And he told us that affordances were important for all kinds of reasons. And in applied linguistics, the concept of affordance was used by Van Leer, who pointed out that learners are agents who engage with their surroundings in a number of ways, and language happens in the context of purposeful action. Right? Again, playing the game. Okay, I have a theme here, playing the game, purposeful action. In most classrooms, affordances are present in the recurring activities such as the following. Whole class and small group instruction gives you a lot of affordances. So does collaboration between groups of students, but you know that. You've been doing collaborations for a long time. Viewing videos and other multimedia presentations, reading for a purpose to find information from a variety of sources, writing for self and for others. In the particular science classrooms that we did, and let me move back for just a moment. In the science classrooms that we worked with, we found that the key to working with newcomers, because our findings are probably the most meaningful for newcomers that were inserted into these classrooms. And these newcomers, we made sure that they were grouped in triads. No shoulder buddies, triads. And here's what we expected in the triad. You have a newcomer, and we needed to have a very talkative child in the triad and someone else who was also an English speaker. And we put in a newcomer into that triad. So you can see the affordances immediately. Every time that triad speaks about anything at all, that newcomer was getting an enormous amount of real language around them, right? So what did we find? Okay, what we found and it's interesting because the last version of this particular PowerPoint that I promised to fix and get to you gave you all of our findings, and our findings actually showed marked improvement in interactions, in ability to communicate, in making a point, in being willing to interact, coming out of those triads, and in engaging with a phenomenon that was very, very impressive. We've written a number of things on it, and I can point back. I can go back to the slide to give you the reference to that to our a couple of the papers that have appeared from this study. So I'm going to sum up by saying that practicing bits and pieces of language, like focusing only on separate skills in the gym, won't really work. That spending time dribbling basketballs with other learners or playing exclusively with other unskilled team members is not going to result in marked improvement.